Let's bring Charles Davis in after a quick word from FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action, and if you're looking for bigger payouts, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And with that, we welcome Charles Davis to the show. How you doing today, Charles?
I'm doing well. How's everyone today?
We're doing great, Charles.
We're doing well.
I had Charles on my podcast a couple months ago. We had a great time. We had a long chat, really fun chat. It was great. But go ahead, G. I didn't cut you off there.
This is for my people on Reddit. They have hit me up, and it's almost a cult there. They said, listen, if you're going to have Charles on, we need to give you our Madden 26 list. They want connected franchise to come back. They also want the stadium prices and create a play to come back. I told them I can only give you 2 out of the 3. I'll float that to you. I don't know.
Hey, you can give me the whole list. I mean, whatever it is, I'll be happy to pass it on. But as they say, above my pay grade. So I'm just going to everybody else deal with that.
They say, Charles, this is the script. We're going to have you read it. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Then they tell me you can go from there. All right, nobody asks you.
Charles, what do you think of, obviously the Browns have made the trade for Kenny Pickett. What did you think of that trade? And we're hearing the rumblings that they still might get Kirk Cousins, possibly by the end of this weekend.
Yeah, I think that the Kenny Pickett trade, I didn't think much of it, truthfully. I mean, it's swapping him in DTR, and you're really swapping a backup. So I don't see him as a real contender to be your starter unless a whole lot of nothing happens. And if a whole lot of nothing happens, I think Myles Garrett might go back and ask to take his name off the contract. So the reason I say that is I just can't see any world where Myles Garrett didn't talk with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and obviously ownership and say, listen, the money's great. Don't get me wrong. No one's kicking back. Was it 40 mil? But at the same time, it still stands. I'd like to win some ball games around here. What are we going to do? It just feels like they had to have assured him they're going to do everything possible to try and fix the quarterback position because that's where it all starts. The move for Kenny Pickett is not the fix. Is Kirk Cousins coming? That's a bigger signal. If Kirk Cousins is coming, that may change what you do at number 2. That's going to be the interesting part because sitting at 2, I'm firmly convinced that no other moves made. They don't leave without getting one of those quarterbacks. You're either getting Cam Ward or you're getting Shedeur Sanders. But if the way it's going, if somehow Kirk Cousins shows up, I don't know that Kirk Cousins shows up and then they draft another quarterback where Kirk Cousins goes, we did this to me in Atlanta last year. What are we doing here? I just don't know if we're going to do that. This would be interesting.
That is very interesting, you bringing that up. I never thought about it from Kirk Cousins' standpoint. Like, does he want to come in and be a placeholder when we just kind of did this thing with Penix in Atlanta? If Kirk Cousins, say for instance, is the guy, how much would they be interested in looking at a guy like Abdul Carter since you did get Myles Garrett back, or a guy that I think we've all forgotten about, a guy like Travis Hunter who is kind of like missing a little bit? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to me, if you're going to get Kirk Cousins in this year's quarterback draft, right, if you're not saying I'm investing in one of these guys as my future guy, I think you're looking at a Travis Hunter. You're looking at an Abdul Carter. You're looking at who is best at that spot to help fill out my ball club. And, look, Kirk Cousins doesn't have the greatest leverage in the world because, remember, it's going to have to be a deal to get him away from Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't have to do anything on this thing. They've just kind of assured him, hey, we understand you want to be a starter, and we'll look around for you with you. This is where it gets a little bit dicey because if I'm Cleveland How long do I get Kirk Cousins for? Remember, things were rocking along last year. They were 6-3. He was playing pretty darn well. He put 500 plus on Tampa Bay one game, plus like 5 touchdown passes. It looked great. Injuries kicked in. He fell off the map. Here comes Penix. Off we go from there. How long are you getting the Kirk Cousins you're wanting and needing in order for you to pass up on one of these quarterbacks? This comes back to Andrew Berry, the scouting department, Kevin Stefanski. What do you feel about Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? How much conviction do you have? Because if you have that conviction, I don't know that you make that deal with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I'm with you, Charles. I mean, if I like the quarterbacks, they may not be able to get Cam Ward, obviously, if he goes to Tennessee. But there's no way I'm letting Kirk Cousins stand in the way of me getting a potential franchise quarterback that they've been looking for forever. I know in your mock draft you had quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I went crazy.
Yeah. So give us your thoughts, if you will, on Shedeur. Wow, you have Shedeur going 1. Okay, there you go. So Cam Ward 2 and then Jackson Dart 3. I think we would all love that if Cam Ward ended up in Cleveland. I think most of us prefer Cam Ward. Who knows? Tell us why you put him in that order and what you think of each of the 3 guys.
Yeah, look, you do mock drafts. I have to do 3 of them. Okay?
Yeah.
So this was my first one. I've got 2 more to come. You always want to have yours be a little bit different than everyone else's.
Sure.
But you also want it to be somewhat plausible. Here's why Shedeur Sanders instead of Cam Ward to Tennessee. Brian Callahan, head coach, offense coordinator, where was he? Cincinnati. Shedeur Sanders plays more like Burrow plays in terms of from the pocket, ball see it, boom, ball goes to the right spots, the whole deal. What did Brian Callahan watch a lot of last year? Will Levis going off platform and crazy things happening. Okay? Shedeur Sanders doesn't play that way at all, right? If you go back and watch his highlight tape, you're not seeing a heck of a lot of off-platform craziness that we go, oh my God, what did we just see? That was wild. That's Cam Ward. I don't know if Brian Callahan wants to do that 2 times in a row, and that's what I'm thinking in a mock draft. Who knows how it really comes down? But that's why I went Shedeur Sanders there. Make Brian Callahan happier that way. 2, Cam Ward, no-brainer. Cleveland's got to go get their QB. This kid is the consensus number 1 quarterback from everyone I'm talking to around the league and people who are analyzing it. Most people have Cam Ward ahead of Shedeur Sanders. So that's why he's obviously going to Cleveland. And then 3, I know the Giants at 3 and Jackson Dart, that feels very, very rich, and I totally understand that. And I did this 6 days ago. If Jackson Dart ended up going at that point to Las Vegas, or at that point going to who else was in the market then? The Jets. People might go, oh, okay, that makes a little sense because he's going to 6, 7, 8, whatever the number is. 3 might feel too high to people, but the Giants have to get a quarterback. All right, are you really going into next year with Tommy DeVito? Is that really where we're going now? Because Daniel Jones is long gone, and that money went out the window. That didn't work out very well for you. And we've all been in this game long enough that you've seen people get pushed up in this draft that later on you've kind of gone, what just happened here? Where have you gone, Joe Walker? Where have you gone, Christian Ponder? Right? Where have you gone? Josh Rosen, who got moved up to get him. These things happen in this. And by the way, it's not a huge quarterback market this year for drafting. So sometimes that creates that artificial and pushes guys up. Now, do I think it's likely? Probably not. But it is food for thought.
Charles, let me ask you, what if the Browns didn't go quarterback at 2? What position or what player do you think they go after? I know there's 2 hot names between Abdul and Travis Hunter. Which one would you take if you weren't going to go quarterback and say you were going to draft a quarterback maybe in the 2nd or the 3rd round?
Yeah, if they're not going to take a quarterback there, I hope that means they're getting Kirk Cousins. Okay, and I'm going to get Travis Hunter. And I'm going to play him on offense because I've got to get some things really kick-started on that side of the ball. I've got to get things going to where I have some consistency and have people that scare people downfield. All right? They've been trying to find people to scare people downfield for a while now, and those guys kind of coming up. And this guy here, he can do that for you. Plus, you know you're going to play him a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're just going to have to be very judicious about how they start out doing it. I know he wants to be a full-time guy, but what did he weigh in at the combine? 180-something? And during the season, he probably played in the 170s. So you just worry a little bit about that because remember, Emmanuel Forbes came out and was a first-round pick at 166, and now he's already on his second team. I just want to make sure this kid stays healthy and gives me a chance to make plays. And Andrew Berry's already on record as saying he sees him as a receiver first. I would go get that kid and havoc on offense.
You know, people have been looking at me crazy. I love the running back class. Listen, and I don't like when people say big boards. We don't got no big boards. We need to stop saying that. I don't have a big board. I'm just watching everybody else, and then I'm going to take a consensus. That's your big board. You stop.
I like how you keep it real like that. Thank you.
I ain't got no big board. But listen, these running back class, Ashton Jeanty, Amarion Hampton, you got the 2 running backs from Ohio State. Could you see, people tell us all the time, running backs don't go in the first round. Could you see how many running backs go in the first round, or do you see any of those guys sneaking up and taking more than we usually do in the past?
I could easily see 3 going in the first round. It wouldn't shock me, okay? You mentioned 3. You mentioned Hampton as the second one. Obviously, Genty's the top guy. Then it's kind of pick your flavor, I think, between Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins at Ohio State. And they're 2 different backs. If you want to throw the ball a little bit more to your back, that's a little bit more Henderson. If you're much more of a thumping type of a team, that's Judkins, who weighs about 20 pounds more. So it's an interesting look. But that, as you pointed out, we can just keep going with running backs, right? You want to get into the second round because let's say Jeanty becomes the only back that goes in the first round, all right? I have a sneaking suspicion Hampton's going to get in there. But let's say there's only one that goes. When we start the second round, that starts to run on runners, okay? And someone said to me yesterday, a former GM in this league, he said, we keep talking about devaluing running backs. Maybe we should say, no, we're just not picking the right runners. Because when you have the right runner, everything changes. Look at Baltimore last year. Look at Philadelphia last year. This is what powers you. My only thing is, as the offensive coordinators, people are calling the plays, the offensive units, you are not really known as a cool offensive coordinator unless you're flinging it around, right? Mm-hmm. Those guys who can resist that and turn and hand that thumper for 4 quarters and beat people up on the other side and win ball games, that's a great offensive coordinator. Do you have the conviction to stay with that run game that's working for you? Because you guys have watched a lot of ball. How many times have you seen people work it? Nah, got to throw it.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. We've been watching that for the last 5 to 10 years. Chubb and Hunt is back there. Just keep giving it to him, man. Can you keep giving it to him?
It's hard, but it's a very hard thing to do because there's also a lot of teams that have those guys out wide that you can just see one-on-one. If I just get it to him, it can turn into a big play, and it's almost irresistible at times to do it. I totally get that, but we always talk about what are the colleges giving us? On the defensive side of the ball, the colleges are giving us smaller people because they're dealing with those spread offenses in college, and over the last 10 years, if you look at the sizes of the defenders, they've gotten smaller. Not like, all of a sudden they're playing with nothing but peewees. I'm just saying they're smaller guys because look at the linebackers in the box. You don't see LaVon Kirkland in the box anymore, okay?
Nope.
You're not seeing those kind of guys. You're seeing 225, 230-pound max that are playing inside now, 220 pounds. It's a different game if you choose to stay with it. And I don't have this in front of me, but my impression is over the last 5 years, the top 5 to 6 running backs in total yardage for the year have all been 215 and above. Bigger backs are thriving in this league right now.
Charles, I'm curious your thoughts on some of the quarterback movement here in terms of the veterans. Geno getting traded, Sam Darnold signing with Seattle, Daniel Jones signs with Indy. We'll see where Aaron Rodgers ends up here, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields to the Jets. And then we were scratching our heads about the Laramie Tunsil deal for Washington. Great move, but Houston's O-line was already bad, and they just traded their best guy. So if you can give us some thoughts on that, that'd be great.
I'll start there. That one surprised, I think, everyone. because Tunsil, despite a ton of penalties, he's one of the leading penalty guys in the league for the last few years, is still a Pro Bowl, all-pro style player. And you've got that young quarterback back there. Surprise, surprise, surprise. The only thing I can think is they drafted the youngster Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame last year who played right tackle. Maybe they have a plan for him to be the left tackle for them. I think they were better with Titus Howard going from right tackle inside to guard, but then they still have to fill the hole at right tackle again. I think we're all a little bit surprised, but Washington's telling everyone, in Dan Quinn's terms, we're going for it.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. And you can go for it because your quarterback's in the second year of a rookie contract.
Yeah.
And he's elite. So this is when you make your move. Adam Peters did that. The rest of the quarterback movement, remember, I did my mock draft 6 days ago. Now I look at it. Oh, my goodness. The Jets were a quarterback team, right? No longer. Justin Fields is filled in, right? The Giants, we have to see what happens there. They're sitting at 3. And remember, I was the crazy one who gave them Dart at 3. Mm-hmm. What if they don't get Rodgers? What if that doesn't happen? Right? Sam Darnold, who I think should have stayed in Minnesota, but I understand why he's going to go to Seattle. Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. He backfills there, and he gets more money. Well, Seattle's out of that market. We know that one. This is going to be very interesting to see how this movement goes, because the moves we're seeing, guys, in my humble opinion, are telling us how the league feels about this year's crop of quarterbacks coming out. We wouldn't have had this kind of movement last year because we had all those quarterbacks in the first round. We had 6 of the top 12 picks. And by the way, one didn't play the entire year because he was hurt. The other 5 had an impact. And that's a legit statement. They all had an impact. Penix late in the year, Drake May from about midseason on, right? And maybe a little bit before that. Bo Nix could have been Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels, who was Rookie of the Year. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. Caleb Williams, I realize it collapsed in Chicago, but you can't tell me you didn't see flashes of why he went number 1 overall. So all in all, it was a crazy year. The league's saying we're not having that year this year. Okay, we're talking about 2 near the top, and maybe they've been pushed higher than they would normally go. Do we have the appetite in the stomach for anyone beyond that? Is it a Jackson Dart? Is it a Tyler Shuck? Is it a Jalen Milroe? Does anyone go that high? I don't know. But if you don't get him at 3, if you're the Giants and you don't sign Aaron Rodgers, when do you get your cue?
Charles, there's been a lot of smoke and mirrors about Brandon Ayuk being traded to the Browns. And we know that Andrew Berry loves to make a splash trade, especially when it comes to wide receivers. What do you think of that, Brandon Ayuk to the Browns?
Listen, I've mentioned before about Travis Hunter and needing to be able to make bigger plays downfield. Ayuk's that type of a player. One of his favorite routes is about that 15 to 18-yard dig route that takes you to the inside portion, and you stick that ball on him, and then he's strong enough to bounce through some things and make some more plays. So I'm a big Brandon Ayuk fan. I don't think that everything came for him because they played off of Debo or they played here or played whatever. It's a very good system in San Francisco. I think is also an excellent player in his own right, and he can find his own way.
Go ahead, Mikey.
Charles, when I was making your bio today, I came across your Wikipedia page, and before I ask the question, I have to make sure this is accurate.
Oh, boy.
Were you actually born in Elizabethton?
I was, absolutely, in the old Carter County Hospital. Now, the new Carter County Hospital is probably about 50 years old now. But at the time, we called it the old Carter County Hospital. Yes, Elizabeth, and that's my mother's family. The Richmonds, still up there on Watauga Avenue. And, I was fortunate enough to be born there before we moved to New York when I was 2. You must have a East Tennessee connection.
Well, my first job was in Bristol. We covered Elizabethton. That's where Jason Witten went to high school. His brother, Sean Witten, is the coach at Elizabethton High School right now, won a couple of state championships.
And when Jason was in school, he played for his grandfather, Coach Ryder, who was the immortal.
So you didn't know that, Mike.
Yes. I didn't, but I have a question about Northeast Tennessee real quick, because you went to Knoxville, played at University of Tennessee too.
Yeah.
Was Pals around, Charles, when you were growing up? And is Pals the greatest single Northeast Tennessee local fast food restaurant in America?
That's a great question because I never experienced it.
After his time.
I mean, you made an obscure reference
Well, if he's from Elizabethton, it was made in that area. It's in Johnson City, Tennessee, which is 15 minutes from.
What kind of fast food?
Yeah, you have to understand. I left Elizabeth. My family, we moved from Elizabethton in 1967. Okay, so if I would have been on a visit back.
Okay,
but that one's not in the gray matter at all, unfortunately. So it sounds like I missed out.
I had to try.
Yeah, I had to try.
And really quickly before we go,
I did my research. I got to get credit for the research at least.
You did well. I'll ask my cousins about it.
There you go.
Is Tennessee considered the South?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So Kentucky is the South too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kentucky is also the South, but Kentucky is a very interesting spot because with the Kentucky border, you're right there with Ohio as well. Yeah. So a lot of Ohio, which we consider Rust Belt and North, there's a Southern influence into Ohio with the Ohio-Kentucky border. So when we were in school, Kentucky considered Tennessee their biggest rival because we were the only state that bordered them in the SEC. So that was a big, big deal for the Tennessee-Kentucky thing. We weren't Hatfields and McCoys, but we were close.
Charles, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate taking the time. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care of yourselves, okay?
All right.
Be well. Charles Davis, always great to chat with him. And he has, in his mock draft, quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3. We'll see what happens. Obviously,
the way he explained it wasn't too crazy. Like, because if you're the Giants, where you getting a quarterback from if they're off the board?
Yeah, now, rumors are that they're the favorites to sign Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, that's a short-term situation.
So what's the Steelers doing?
Taking Jackson?
Or the I
thought Aaron Rodgers was going to the Steelers.
I thought he was going to the Steelers.
I thought the Giants were the favorite for Aaron Rodgers. Now, is it the Steelers?
It's up in the air. According to FanDuel, they're both at minus.
Yeah, I mean, whoever Russell Wilson maybe ends up at the other place, or Gardner Minshew, or
why? But
it's desolate out there.
But don't Pittsburgh gotta make it? They have to have Aaron. You just got DK Metcalf. Why would you?
Yeah. Why would Aaron Rodgers want to play for the Giants? I mean, I don't know why the Giants would want Aaron Rodgers, and I don't know why Aaron Rodgers would want the Giants.
They're not better than the Jets
because they got Malik Neighbors.
I know that, but they're not winning.
You got a point there.
It wasn't like
he ain't got to move.
I think we're at the point where trying to predict what Aaron Rodgers wants is a futile experience.
I don't know why anybody would want him at this point, unless maybe you thought you were like the Steelers. I kind of can understand.
I could kind of get the Steelers.
I don't know why a bad team would want Aaron Rodgers. It just doesn't make sense.
This is Aaron Rodgers.
He's 40.
Yeah, LeBron is too.
But LeBron and Tom Brady are freaks. They've
changed our perception. Not every player can play till 45, and not every NBA player can still be effective at 40.
In fact, none can, except for those guys.
It's the one in the exception. They are the exception.
But it feels like the Steelers at this point are actually desperate.
They're trying to get to
they're
trying to get to the second.
Well, they don't want Russell. They don't want to go Russell Wilson again.
They don't have Fields. They don't want to go Russell Wilson. So if I'm sitting here and you just got DK Metcalf and then gave him an extension, the Steelers don't even like giving extensions to nobody.
No, that's true.
So like you got Pickens, who's already bad because he ain't getting the ball now. We're like, listen, George, the season hasn't started, but I didn't get the ball yesterday. It's not. It's the draft.
Yeah.
So these dudes, Fryer, they got some pieces.
Yeah.
They feel like they got to get Aaron Rodgers.
They lost Najee Harris. Where did he sign? I forgot.
The Chargers.
Oh, right.
1 year deal.
Oh, he's going to go out there and play fullback. You know, hard.
They don't have a running back.
Yeah, Dobbins is still a free agent.
JK is gone.
Yeah.
They replaced.
They actually got off that good start and then